We're live for the Wandavision finale breakdown. We're going to be reacting and reviewing the final episode of Wandavision, everyone. Got some beautiful background music from my favorite scene in the episode. My God, what performances did we have? They were absolutely amazing. Not everything got answered in the finale, but that's okay because it connects to some of the amazing things we're going to be seeing in the Marvel Cinematic Universe coming forward. I'm super excited to be joined here today by my co-host Hex Dogma for the final WandaVision review and reaction, my man. How do you feel?
Feels good, man. Feels like a journey, and it feels like the end of a excellent journey.
Yeah, dude. We were just talking about chat. We were talking about before how we, felt like this was so many things, but it's one of the best love stories, if not the best love story in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. We're going to talk about everything here today, chat. We're going to review, recap, break down, talk about the Easter eggs, theories, preview the future, what might happen with Wanda. And I saw a lot, man. And this is something that I think is absolutely amazing that happened with WandaVision, Hacks, is that I went on Twitter on Friday and Saturday, and I saw so many people saying they are now invested in Wanda's story, and this is the most significant story for them in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And that's pretty crazy considering we got RDJ as Iron Man. He died basically saving the whole friggin' universe. But now we're moving forward and we got to tell the stories of these characters that didn't necessarily get the spotlight, And it's just so amazing, dude. There's comics that have sold out because people are getting invested in buying Marvel comics because of the WandaVision finale. It's having the Game of Thrones effect, dude. People buying the books. Now people are getting into the Marvel comics. And it's just so friggin' cool, the effect that WandaVision has had on just Marvel fans in general, man.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. I like the very first comic I ever purchased that was as an adult that wasn't purchased for me was Captain America, the first issue that he became an agent of Hydra, that whole comic line. And I think that was like 2-3 years ago. And I remember even then, man, like I bought the last one in the place. We went to like 3 different comic shops to find that exact issue. And I still have it like, just sitting in the sleeve. Like I read it online, so I don't want to actually open my copy of it. But yeah, man, it's great. And like, comic collectors, like I think Marvel's success in this form of the media could definitely drive success in comics. Both as collectors and people that genuinely want to read in that format. I think it's great, and who knows? Like we may see the next generation of superheroes and stuff exist in comic form again, because maybe that becomes a viable media again.
We have Wanda Maximoff in the chat. Hello, Wanda. Thanks for joining us. We have Kate Bertinsky. We have the mod team in there. We have Marika. We have Mod Mary. I see Nicola in chat. I'm sure more of you are going to be joining today. I just want to thank everyone for joining us, of course. This is episode number 7 of the Marvel podcast. Like I said, if you guys are enjoying what you see, hit that like button. You can find all of our links in the description of the video for our future content for both Hacks and I, and also there's a playlist on the channel of all of our podcasts discussing WandaVision. So yeah, super exciting, man. Overall thoughts of the episode, and then I guess we can kind of dive into this one because there's really a lot to dive into. We didn't get all the questions answered, and I think we kind of knew that. We're like, Marvel is always good at setting up things for the future with the post-credit scenes or movie trilogies, and it's not to say that we won't get a second season of WandaVision, because I think we have to talk about that Vision scene with Wanda where they said they might meet again, and I think that's a strong possibility. And but yeah, just overall thoughts on WandaVision finale episode 9 and then the season, Chris.
Yeah, so the finale was great. A lot of great things, way more good things than bad things. I really liked the fight scene. I really liked the Ship of Theseus. I really liked, the dialogue between Wanda and Vision, the heartbreaking moment of realization that this has to come to an end. A lot of really good stuff. Also, justifiably, there are a few misses for me. The town's reaction to Wanda actually being understanding that this was her fault, and them just like slowly approaching. Another great thing was the Stockholm syndrome, like how they discuss how Dottie has this daughter locked away, and instead of like fleeing for her life or begging and pleading, like the default answer is just like to say, hey, like and just to bargain with your captor. Great. I love that aspect of it, but I also wanted to see rage. I wanted to see fury. I wanted to see heartbreak and sorrow and every emotion in the possible spectrum. When you understand that your life is not yours and you are at the agency of somebody else, I wanted to see absolute heartbreak, and I didn't get that in that exact scene. The other thing, again, I don't want to. Overall, that's my thoughts. Is that really great finale? A lot of misses. And as a series as a whole, the series was great. Like, this is the same kind of thing with Game of Thrones, where it is so good, but they set the bar so high for themselves that the season 8 of Game of Thrones is only bad because you compare it to all the other seasons of Game of Thrones. Like, comparative to other television, it is still a league of its own. And that's exactly what WandaVision did. And I think, there's a lot where like people are upset about Mephisto not being in there or the multiverse not being confirmed. I don't care about any of that. Like, because firstly, I think 100% a lot of the stuff is still there. I think WandaVision is the jumping off point for the rest of the MCU. I think that this is the first stepping stone, and it built upon all of our theories. I think everything is basically confirmed true. It's just not confirmed true in the scope of this show. And so in that aspect, I'm not upset that any theory isn't right. I'm upset because I feel like there were certain things that should have been clarified in this finale, such as the whole reason that Jimmy Woo was there, the person that was the missing person, and that never being addressed. So yeah, again, great finale, a lot of misses.
Yeah, there were certain plot holes for sure that I was like, oh, okay, like, Darcy just pinning Hayward, Hayward's kind of arc just falling flat for me in the end.
Why? And why? Like, why was he arrested? Like, at worst, he could be charged with disarming a firearm at Monica. That's it. Like, but discharging a firearm and like, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like, because the other thing, the big reveal is that Jimmy had this whole thing planned out. Like, he had the people coming within the hour, the FBI, and that was something that I thought about a few episodes ago. Like, Jimmy does not report to Hayward. Jimmy has his own boss. Where is the FBI this entire time? Like, what is happening in their world? Does he not have a direct boss? Is there no, like, this tiger team is formed, and I get that. Like, he is reporting to Hayward in this tiger team. But dude, like, you found out in the car. Why did you not immediately go, hey boss, like, I feel like something's up with Hayward. We got confirmation that he's recreating visions over here. Like, forward that to your boss right then. That's when you do that. Like, but
arrest him. Like, should arrest him then and there. Yeah, there was a few things. Like, we talked a little bit before the stream how some of this ties into Secret Invasion and how we're going to see some of this in Doctor Strange 2. We're going to talk about the post credit scene, the second one, where Wanda is, I think, clearly in Sokovia, which is a huge deal. And obviously, her reading the Book of the Damned, the Darkhold, and that being confirmed in this episode sets up huge things for Marvel Phase 4. So we're going to talk about Chthon and Mephisto and all of that, because I still think that's definitely in play. Like,
definitely in play.
They saved a lot of that for. I think the movies will hit those notes, and more of the TV shows will be kind of like building the background mythology and kind of filling in those blanks.
And that's the thing, dude. I've watched so many reviews now. Because like, that's my process. I really like to understand a full scope of everybody's opinion on this before, like, I piece together my own. And that's not to say that, like, I don't. Well, anyway, so like, I haven't seen any reviewer reference the fact, or like, it seems like everybody just says, with Ralph, Boner being who he was, like, that's confirmation that this isn't Quicksilver, or that the multiverse isn't a thing, or stuff. in that regard. But like where it ends with all the lines that they've hinted about, like Agatha saying like, you don't know what you've released into the world, you don't know what the Scarlet Witch is, you don't know any of this, and you're gonna need me. All of this, like it's all Chthon. Like it's all of it is Chthon and or Mephisto, or just an amalgamation of all of them into the next Dormammu. Like and it may even just be Dormammu at this point. Like that is still such a colossal threat. If they needed to introduce another one of those, I don't know why they would.
Which opens up the threat of also Agatha possibly making some sort of alliance with Doctor Strange if Wanda goes rogue. Because we have to talk about the possibility of those cries she heard from Billy and Tommy as that being bait. Because she's literally reading the Book of Sins, the Book of the Damned, dude. Like this is the next Infinity Gauntlet from Marvel Phase 4. This is something that has the capability of completely destroying our realm. Like that's how bad it is. Someone like Chthon or someone like Mephisto working for Chthon or Nightmare, an amalgamation of a couple of different characters in Doctor Strange 2. This is bad. What Wanda tapped into, clearly Agatha knows a lot about Wanda, and we didn't get that extrapolation as, we didn't get that clear path that we wanted to be completely explained. But of course, I think there's no reason why we don't see Agatha and Doctor Strange 2, dude. She's giving me Tom Hiddleston's Loki vibes, like that kind of character that we could see recurring throughout the Marvel Cinematic Universe, like friend or foe. Like, what do we think about this character, I think I really love that setup for that character as well. Like, those types of things were so huge. And I felt like, like, for the most part, they delivered on the season as a whole for, us getting to know the backstory and mythology of these characters. But yeah, of course, like they can't give us everything in the finale because they're setting up these bigger projects,
Yeah, totally agree. And yeah, like I would love to see Doctor Strange 2, talk now that we see Wanda going through the Darkhold. And the way she was levitating, exactly like Strange was, like, I mean, come on, dude. Like it's clearly,
like the one hand.
And
there then, was the did you see the multiple hands?
Yeah, astral projection of like, behind her while she was making tea or whatever. Like,
she looked like the goddess Shiva almost, which is, a big connection to death and the Harbinger and all of that. So chaos and creation and destruction.
I would like to see, like, Dormammu is a giant threat, but Chthon, I don't know. It would just be it'd be crazy to see like Chthon just like destroy Dormammu at the start of Doctor Strange 2 to let him know, or just like let everybody know like how powerful he is comparative to the big bads of the universe. Like,
well, one thing, Chris, is that Agatha said the Scarlet Witch is more powerful than the Sorcerer Supreme.
So here's the thing about that. So
what do you think about that?
Yeah, so that's also another good note that ties in Doctor Strange. Of course, the direct call out, but Doctor Strange works the way his powers work, at least in the comics and kind of in the MCU. In the MCU, it's described as he's getting his powers from these other dimensions. Well, the dark dimension, of course, is Dormammu. It's like they're synonymous with each other. So, I'm taking this, and in the comics, it works like Agamotto is the necklace of Agamotto is essentially like his. Is the deity that he's praying to get power from. So essentially, Doctor Strange gets these powers from these other gods, and I think that might be how all magic works in the MCU. Is that they draw upon these gods and they like essentially pray to them without praying, but in the form of spells. So it's like these gods lending them their power. So if Chthon is really that much stronger than everybody else, which he is, then yes, she could technically be stronger than the Sorcerer Supreme. But if the Sorcerer Supreme, reached out to all of these gods that he has available, and they lent him 100% of their power, then yeah, I mean, it would be
GG.
It would be no contest. Like both of them would be like cosmic entities battling in space at that point. But space and time, but it would be a close fight. I mean, I'm not. Yeah.
Speaking of space and time, let's talk a little bit about the Infinity Stones, because Wanda confirmed that Vision was a part of the Mind Stone that lives within her. Like we clearly saw that teased in the last episode, which I think episode 8 was the best episode of WandaVision in my personal opinion. No knocks against the other episode. I just think it was so brilliantly paced and everything. But now we got to start to talk about, like, now that the Infinity Stones are kind of not being collected to be one power, one power. Now we kind of get this. One thing that WandaVision, really did very clearly is tying colors to specific types of magic and abilities. Chaos magic being tied to the color red, and the Reality Stone, the Aether, is pretty close to kind of what we're seeing with Wanda's abilities. And then we got the Power Stone being tied to more of destruction and that kind of magic in Dormammu and kind of what we saw with Agatha's powers. Then we saw the Mind Stone tied to kind of these other powers. But now we got to start to think about, like, Chthon being tied, now that the Infinity Stones are back where they're supposed to be, Axe. Now we got to start to think about, like, what kind of effect they still have in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, because they will always have some sort of impact on the Marvel Cinematic Universe. They were literally there since the beginning of creation, and they affect all 6 different realities. That's always going to be something that is going to be explored. And now that we're getting into the multiverse, now we got to start to think about, hey, like, does Chthon is Chthon starting to, do we get some of this mythology where he starts to pull some of his power from, the Chaos Realm and the Reality Stone and Wanda, and that now they're going to start to expand going forward in Marvel Phase 4 and kind of having the Reality Stones being separately tied to these different, dark elder gods and stuff like that. Now we got to start to think about, someone like Galactus could be tied to the Power Stone, for example. We could see him in Marvel Phase 4. Chthon being kind of tied to the Reality Stone. Someone like, and those kinds of things going forward.
Yeah, so I want to disagree with you, because I feel like, we're done with the stones, in the sense that the stones, so the stones in the comics were created by, like, cosmic entities that each represent a part of the universe as a whole, and, like, what the powers that be that shaped the universe into what it is, and kind of like a singularity for each of those 6 things that all came together to create the universe. And it is kind of described in a similar way in the MCU, but my thought is that the stones are private to each universe, but in the multiverse there are billions of stones. There's an infinite number of stones, actually. So you could jump to any reality and get their stones, in theory. But the thing is, like, I think the stones are just, like, representatives of the source code of the universe, right? Mm-hmm. And it kind of describes this. They kind of describe this in Doctor Strange when the Ancient One is describing magic to Strange, and she says, like, this is the source code or the program, or as you may know it as something called a spell. And it's like, I feel like these are just the things that make up the universe, and I like the idea that Power and Dormammu could link together, and his power kind of draw upon the source code of that stone.
And that's what I'm saying going forward, Chris. They're not going to focus as the Infinity Stones grants that specific power, but more being separate from that going forward. Like, they will pull from that type of, part
like that
of
magic exists in the world, and the stone was just a representative of those things. Yeah.
But now they're going to go more into the mythology and the separateness and the individuality of each of those things, and how they connect to all of these different gods and characters, these dark elder gods, these dark elder beings, and stuff like that. And oh man, it's just so crazy that it was confirmed that the Darkhold is the book, because that is such a huge thing to confirm. Like, people were talking about how it could be the Tome of Zedrina, which was Agatha's mother. She's an Atlantean, and clearly those people had advanced technology and magic in their own time, ages and ages and ages ago. But now we're starting to get into this territory where we're like, oh, now we're really starting to understand the Marvel Universe. Like, we've had this, like, very, I don't want to say small period, because 20 years is a long time for the MCU. But now we're starting to get into the 80 plus years of Marvel comics where there's this rich mythology. And now we're really starting to get into it. And I fucking love that so much, dude. It's so good.
Oh yeah. I'm pretty excited. And there's a meme where it was talking about, like, after Thanos, like, Marvel just being out of content, and then it was like Stan Lee just, like, with his glasses down, like, hello, do you know who I am? Like, yeah, it was just, yeah, I don't know, man. I'm excited. There's so much more to explore. Secret Wars, Armor Wars. I'm really, really excited for Armor Wars, actually. And, the idea that we're actually kind of already seeing that in the sense of Tony Stark's, software and hardware, literal hardware, being used for stuff that he would never want it used for. Hayward, everything he did, I mean, even down to like what is probably powering the new Vision right now is probably an arc reactor, first designed by Stark. Like, yeah, I just love it, and it's happening here. Who knows when the next Justin Hammer makes it across the world, or
I think he's gonna be in Armor Wars. I think he's gonna be the main
yeah.
antagonist with Spy Master.
Yeah, that would be.
One thing that we have to also talk about, Hex, is now that you mentioned it, and as soon as I watched the episode, I'm like, the Ship of Theseus scene must be one of Hax's favorite scenes from this episode, dude. I immediately thought of some of the Westworld mindfuckery and the idea of like a consciousness talking to another consciousness, and just that conversation was so fucking cool. That was one of my top 5 favorite moments in WandaVision, period. Like, just to see that, and we talked about the possibility of Visions merging, because there is some comic precedent for that. But this was even cooler because we had the idea Hayward was gonna unleash this next Ultron, this next form of Vision, and then Vision has a conversation with a Vision that is literally created from the Mind Stone. That Vision touches him and enlightens him. Man, that was like one of the craziest, coolest scenes in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, so man. Like, fucking amazing.
Chad, and the design.
Rate that scene out of 10 for me, please. I'm really curious to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, the design for White Vision, like hidden close up, so good. Like haunting good. Like, it looked like, the zombification, like just undead, unfeeling, but then, then him blinking and seeing his eyes, like Paul Bettany's eyes come through, that was just so good, man. And yeah, the Ship of Theseus, like, such a great thought experiment about identity. And of course, like, them going through that exercise was beautiful. Like, good God, that was so good. And I'm glad that it happened that way. I'm glad that we both got the action of like just the brute force power that both of them have. But then also the hypercritical thinking and analytics that they also have. Like, it was great. And yeah, the mind meld, definitely something that we talked about. How they did it in their flavor, like by still allowing this Vision to have his time with Wanda. Awesome. I'm kind of shocked that White Vision, after realizing that he was Vision, just dipped and we never saw him again.
Where did he go? Right? Like,
like if he was genuinely Vision, I feel like he would have gone to Wanda. So that makes me think that there's still some things to explore there.
Well, he's going to be exploring the Mind Stone's representation of Vision within the Hex. It told him, right? Like, is he going to be going to search the internet for information? Like, clearly, like, Vision gave him his memories, which was crazy. That was insane.
Yeah. So, like, my interpretation was that, he's got the memories. Like, he unlocked everything. He knows what's going on. I think that, honestly, if that is the real Vision, like, and I think it is, I think that what they're showing us is that he doesn't agree with Wanda. Like, he understands that the utilitarian good does not exist in this situation. She is the utilitarian bad. So it's like he's removing himself from the situation, knowing that he's the real Vision, knowing that he does love Wanda, but what she is doing, he can't support, so he just leaves. But again, like, it's interesting.
Well, let's connect this to the scene later in the episode, which was my favorite scene of the whole episode, which has this music, which we have, which is absolutely fantastic. Vision and Wanda are having that conversation as the Hex is coming in, and Vision says, "I've been a voice with no body, a body but not human, but now a memory made real. Who knows what I might be next? We have said goodbye before, so it stands to reason." And then Wanda says, we will say hello again. And that was just so friggin', oh my God. I cried during that scene. That was, I think that moment was the most powerful moment in all of WandaVision. Because she knows she's going to lose Vision again. And we know that the other Vision flied away saying, I am Vision. But they're totally teasing them interacting at some point in the future, obviously. Like, they would have just killed off Vision if they wanted to move on from this relationship. You know what I mean? Like, if that was in their plans.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, I'm also a little perplexed that Vision inside the Hex didn't tell Wanda what he did with White Vision, right? Like, he's literally saying, like, hey, like, who knows what I'm going to be next, as he just released a more accurate version of himself back into the world. Like, he acknowledges that he does not have a physical body, but the memories and love of, an accurate perception of what Vision was before he was destroyed, and combining that with the physical body again, like, that is the most Vision you'll ever get again. Like,
do you think his thoughts are so advanced that he knows that Wanda needs to mature and have some silence, like we see in the Sokovian Mountains in the post-credit? Like that is so interesting. The way he poses, the way he says that, the way he structures, the way he says that to her is so interesting, right? Like, he's like, who knows what I might be next? Like, like that is the most obvious foreshadowing. Like, this is a teaser that they will 100% meet again. Like, that it's so clear. But just the way he says it, like, and she knows, like, he knows that he's going to not exist in a few seconds, but it's just so amazing, man. My God, like,
give me 1 second. I gotta get the door.
Hi, Chris. Hax has to go get his brother who's visiting him. But Chad, what did you think about that moment? I thought that was the most powerful moment in WandaVision, because this is kind of a story of the stages of Wanda's grief and her dealing with that. And then that moment, that culmination, is the culmination of everything we saw in WandaVision, right? Wanda's story, learning how to accept that loss and move forward. What does she do? What does she do? What does she do with that information? How does she react to this event? How does she move forward? How does she mature? How does she grow as a person? I just thought that was so brilliant.
Okay, I'm back.
Yeah, I was just saying, did you hear what I was saying? Like,
I did not.
I was just telling Chad, I was like, wow, like, what does she now do with this information? How does she grow as a person? How does she move forward? Like, oh man, so like, they turned Wanda into one of the most compelling characters ever. It's so crazy.
I mean, I'm sure that the people of Westview don't agree. I'm sure that, like, here's the whole complete picture. Wanda is the villain. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, it's the impact versus intent argument. It does not matter that she was sad when she did it. She enslaved an entire town. Like, the fact that she says sorry to Monica is such a slap in the face to everybody else in Westview. Like, are you kidding me? Like, why didn't she? That was another scene where I was like, she should have, like, begged and pleaded and shown true, genuine emotion at that point. She should have been like, I am so sorry. I don't know how I'm going to do it. I'm going to make it up to you. I will work the rest of my life to understand this power and use it for the betterment of the world. And just some heartfelt emotion, plead for her life, to justify that she is still the good guy. And we didn't get that. And in my opinion, her saying sorry to Monica, slap in the face to everybody else. I don't know how you could make it right. You could never make it right. So yeah, I don't know. That's my whole thing. I view her as the villain, and I think that White Vision may have understood that, right? Like, that's maybe why he left, is that, there is no righting this wrong. And she said that multiple episodes, like, don't worry, Vision, I'm gonna figure this out. Like, it's all under control. And
some people are saying that she will be the antagonist in Doctor Strange too.
Yeah, I mean, I said that episodes ago, that and like, talking to my wife, I was like, hey, like, they could genuinely be telling a story about how Wanda has lost her mind and is the bad guy. And ultimately, like, I don't think I ever ran anywhere with that, because, I still wanted to see the betterment of Wanda. Like, and even every single one of my videos, I reference this, where I still look for every possible way that agency could be taken from Wanda and placed on Hayward or placed on Agatha or anything like that to prove without a doubt that it's not Wanda literally mind controlling these people. And it was. Like, I gave every benefit of the doubt and thought of every way I could possibly get her out of that situation, and she was still the bad guy. So maybe she is. But another thing, I think that with Doctor Strange 2, I think that Mordo is going to come into the story. I think that Mordo and Agatha have a ton of relation to each other. Both
in the
of
way
them have,
the way that they see magic. Yeah.
both of them have this ability to steal magic from people, which is mind blowing. It either proves that like Agatha has worked with him before or knows of him, or that I don't know, maybe their interests align in the future. But again, I'm still hoping that Agatha and what's it called, the Ancient One, have some kind of backstory together. Even if it doesn't exist, I'm gonna write it.
Because Baron Mordo is the main antagonist for Doctor Strange in the comics. He wasn't presented as such in Doctor Strange #1, but they're going to tell like 3, 4, 5. There's going to be multiple Doctor Strange movies, and he's going to be. He's going to be. Spider-Man: Far From Home for sure. Wanda Multiverse of Madness. He may pop up in Fantastic Four even. He's going to kind of be the Iron Man, Captain America, where he's popping up in all of these different IPs from Marvel. I think that's great. Yeah,
and again, so I know it seems that I'm being hypercritical of Wanda and WandaVision, but I genuinely enjoy the story. I just want it so crystal clear that what Wanda's done, there's no way back from that. There's a few ways back from that. One way would be Doctor Strange came in, somehow had the time stone, somehow reversed everybody's mind, and it never happened. But this is a second event where, we're giving her the benefit of the doubt, right? First at Lagos, where we see her, even with Lagos, I was like, no, you people, dumb as shit. This is just an excuse to get the Sokovia Accords in the world, right? Because I think Crossbones is his name. Yeah, Crossbones was exploding, right? And the best that she could have done is not kill the people around her. She did the best. She threw it up in the air. Sure, she could have thrown it other ways or anything, but at that point, she did her best, and it's not her fault that there were casualties. It's Crossbones' fault, and she just again did the best that she could. But then in that, it was shaped that we should consider this something that she did. A detriment to her and her character, in the same sense that Hulk has accidentally killed people and Bucky has accidentally killed people. Everybody, is there a single Avenger that hasn't accidentally killed people? Maybe Hawkeye. I want to say Hawkeye because he's only personally and purposely killed people.
As Ronin, yeah.
So, but again, the whole thing is that this is the second time that Wanda's now done this, and she doesn't explicitly kill people, but. Damn.
Then I'm curious to hear your thoughts on Monica's comment to Wanda. Hey, I would try. Hey, if I had the opportunity to bring my mom back, that's an interesting question. What would we personally do in this position if you Hacks? I think if you lost your wife, you would do this.
I would mass murder everybody on the entire world. I would genuinely human worldly sacrifice, and then just me and my wife would live on Mars. I have no detriments to what Wanda did, but there's also the point in which you would have to say what I was doing was wrong, and I would have to decide if I cared because I would have my wife back. And that's the whole thing. We are still allowed to give her criticism, even though we would do the same thing. So I don't know. It's the categorical imperative where try to put yourself in those shoes. And it's yes, it started off as an accident, maybe. And I also think it maybe started off as a suicide attempt because we see her rip her heart open to cause this entire explosion, and it's such a metaphysical commentary on suicide where again, we saw Bruce Banner try to kill himself. We didn't see this, but he says that he did this. And he being in that sunken place, he tries to kill himself, comes back as the Hulk after killing X amount of people. So in a similar sense, what she did, try to kill herself, can be interpreted as that, and now enslaved a town by accident. But the issue is that at some point in that thing, she realizes that she is in control. The first couple episodes we see her, and she has little idea about what's happening, and she has a questioning mentality where she's trying to figure it out herself. And it also seems like she's trying to figure out with Vision, but now it does shape it to where she understood what she was doing to these people. She makes a comment to Vision about how hard it would be to control all of these people at once. Knowing that she's doing this at that point, like she's done it. She shows that she's perfectly aware that these are normal people and perfectly okay with them being slaves to her if it makes her happy. And that's like damn, dude. I don't know. Like, yeah.
Marika has an interesting comment here that I want to highlight from chat. And by the way, chat, thank you everyone for joining. Really, really appreciate it. One thing that I do want to point out before this comment that we highlight from Marika, Bethany says, hey, haven't caught a live with you other than with Indie Geek. Been loving your content throughout WandaVision. Hope you'll be doing the same for Falcon and Winter Soldier Series 2. Yeah, we'll be doing that for Falcon and Winter Soldier. Next week, we're going to do a Falcon and Winter Soldier preview next Sunday. There won't be a WandaVision episode to break down, but we'll be back. And then Falcon and Winter Soldier is 2 weeks from now. We're going to do the same for Loki, What If, all that. So we'll be continuing to discuss Marvel. Let's sorry, wrong comment from there we go. You judge yourself. We got a doggo barking in the background. He agrees with Marika's comment, saying, you judge yourself by your intent, but you judge others by their actions.
That's absolutely true.
And that kind of points to exactly what Hax is trying to point out to us. Let's talk a little bit about the other post-credit scene that was a big one. I think that, you did an amazing video on all of the different kind of Easter eggs and foreshadowing that we might see some Skrulls from WandaVision. And we had discussed the possibility of that Major Goodner character, with the aerospace engineer possibly being a Skrull. And then now we get, this confirmation from what looks to be like a fake FBI agent, an agent of Nick Fury, it seems like, that she was sent to discuss with Monica and go up and see Nick Fury to talk with, Nick Fury and Talos, setting up Secret Invasion and Captain Marvel too. That was huge, man.
Oh, yeah, massive. Yeah, I'm so glad that, I made that video because Skrulls were a thing that, there was a lot of hints, so many hints to space and stuff that I just and Monica's story as a whole, she is the character related to Skrulls in the most character related to Skrulls way you possibly can be, right? Her whole thing is this positive relation to this other race and their species, and her not having some tie to that would just be a missed opportunity, I think. So I'm glad that we did get that at the very, very last moments, but yeah, it's interesting. It sets up Secret Invasion. It also kind of shows can we both agree that the person that she was talking to was was Talos, the Skrull that's currently in posing as Nick Fury,
or his daughter. Remember, she was young, and they both met at a very young age, right? Or Talos met Monica when Captain Marvel was at their home, and I think because remember when Captain Marvel saved them, they had a young daughter.
Yes.
They must have got to know each other because
they're playing cards. Yeah, they're playing Uno, right?
Yeah. I think that's her.
Oh, wait! You think the person talking to her was the person that she played cards with?
Yeah, that's Talos' daughter, I think.
Oh!
You have a friend. You have a friend up there, as in Nick Fury. But I also think it's implied that the Skrulls, because Carol Danvers, who is Maria Rambeau's best friend, who is Monica's mom. That's the way I interpreted it, at least. I don't know.
Gotcha. Yeah, I was talking about I'm sorry, maybe I'm thinking of a different line, but I was talking about because Talos is impostering as Nick Fury right now, because we got that from the Spider-Man Far From Home. Yeah,
and he will be in Secret Invasion, the Disney Plus show, not the movie. It's going to be a series.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. So yeah, ultimately I'm glad that we have Skrulls, and I'm glad that, again, that's just another point in this series where it's WandaVision was really meant to be the starting point for so many more stories in phase 4 and phase 5. This was a great introduction of now that Thanos is defeated, what else could there be? What else could there be in the sense of, magic, in the sense of these galactic threats, combining sci-fi and technology and all of these things to just create something far bigger than Thanos could ever be. And as such, we should care about it.
Secret Invasion is one of my favorite comic book storylines. It's up there with the Infinity Gauntlet series. It's going to be interesting to see how they navigate that, because they've set up the mythology of the Skrulls in the MCU as being more benevolent, being kind of the ones that are being oppressed by the Kree. And the Kree have been presented as kind of these more militaristic, advanced society of like these elitists within the MCU. And I think that that's going to be super interesting to see kind of how they navigate that. Obviously, we had Ronan the Accuser, but he's part of a very extremist sect of the Kree. But now we're starting to get into more of this cosmic multiverse space part of Marvel that is just so friggin' cool, man. And one thing that we also got to talk about is she literally was going to sacrifice herself for Billy and Tommy while Hayward was shooting all of these shots at her. Yeah. She showcased yellow eyes, a different spectrum of light. So I don't know if she's going to be Spectrum or Photon. I think she'll take on the name of Photon. But as opposed to the blue light, when we first saw her pass through the hex for the third time, her eyes, were perceiving all of this different spectrum of light, the electrical signatures that are going through all the wires in this. This is a different ability. She showcases the ability to phase and literally almost become invisible and let these bullets fly through her, which is, I think, one of my favorite abilities for her. But yeah, I thought that was a super cool scene, and she's super powerful, man. Like, those are some powerful ass abilities.
Oh yeah. And the other thing, like when I saw that, it reminded me of Vision in the sense that like he can phase, right? So that was really cool. The other thing is like her eyes, I think they definitely glow purple and yellow. I think they might also glow blue at one point.
First, when she passes through the hex for the third time, when she re-enters the hex, when the vehicle can't break through, they are light blue. Yeah, then, when she perceives Wanda's purple dark magic with all the vines and Ralph Boner, Pietro, whatever we want to call him,
then they're purple. Yeah.
Then they're purple because she's perceiving Agatha's
and then
magic.
And they're yellow.
Yeah, so she's like I'm guessing that they can change into all sorts of different colors. Probably all sorts of the colors of the Infinity Stones. Maybe, I don't know.
Actually, that's a good point. Yeah, it seems like with the point of view that we got from her, it seems like she's perceiving energy, right? And that could mean a lot of things. Whenever she looks at the beads around his neck, I forget what color her eyes are, but yeah, it does seem like she's like investigating or able to look at different things. So like, I don't know. Ultimately, I think it relates to her powers, which are coming from the comics.
Admiral Mellon has a great comment here, Chris. Imagine for every color she turns into, she gets different powers.
It seems like that's probably the case, or like is able to view that kind of energy on the spectrum. But I also think it relates to her character and her powers as a whole, which I'm just not familiar with. I'm sure that if we look at the comics, it'll be crystal clear what she's doing at this point. But yeah, I'm not sure exactly why her eyes are changing. I'm actually going to look more into that.
I think the main ability that is really focused on mostly in the comics, she's able to absorb energy and also redirect it. The double fisted blast where it's like the hands are together, almost like a Kamehameha. It's like the MCU's version of a Kamehameha for Captain Marvel, and she becomes Captain Marvel in the future, which is something that they could set up. But yeah, I think that she can redirect this energy and absorb it, and also redirect it as like this energy kinetic blast too. Like, that's super powerful.
Yeah,
we see Captain Marvel do that against Thanos in the epic fight we get at Endgame.
Yeah, it'll be awesome. I don't know. I like her character a lot, and I think that having a touching reunion with Monica and Captain Marvel, halfway across space, like they talked about when they were kids, just wholesome. Really like to see that.
Some of the, I think something else that we got to talk about. Let's talk about Billy and Tommy a little bit, because they clearly took from the House of M storyline, which is why we still think the Mephisto thread and the Chthon thread, depending on what they want to do with it, I think they could be merging a couple of different comic book storylines and plot lines within the MCU as they like to address things. Like, for example, we see Wanda in Sokovia in the post-credit scene, and she's near the mountains. That could be Vundagor Mountain, where Chthon was imprisoned in the 6th century in the Marvel comics. she was born in a place called Transia in the comics, but of course they changed it to Sokovia for the MCU. We could be seeing a similar type of story where Billy and Tommy were created from the energy, this negative energy from the Darkhold, because obviously Agatha, we don't know her true intentions yet, but she's in possession of the Darkhold, which has a strong connection to Chthon. So there is still a possibility that Billy and Tommy, if these cries that we heard are real, they are still existing in some sort of like dream dimension, where it could be Nightmare's dream dimension or a chaos realm. Chthon is kind of trying to lure Wanda there so he could use her as a vessel, as he does in the comics multiple times. It's going to be interesting to kind of see where they go with this storyline, because, you know, they are shards of Mephisto's soul. The Mephisto stuff got shit on by a lot of different people. But I still think these threads are open, man. I'm really interested to see, because they're clearly going to be in Multiverse of Madness.
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah. Again, like I think it's either Chthon or Mephisto, or this amalgamation of all of them to show the next big bad, and show this like dimensional being. I think that Billy, Tommy, and that version of Vision, you know, may still exist in some kind of capacity. The end scene or the post credit scene at the end showing like them reaching out to her, or her reaching out and being able to observe this other dimension, you know, where they still exist. I think that that's probably what's happening. But at the same time, you know, my thought when the hex was closing, all I kept thinking is like, just stop at your house. Like, just stop right there. Just like before it touches you, just like stop. Just stop it. Like, you don't have to kill everybody. Just like make your little house and just say, fuck it. Like, because that's the whole thing. Like, why wouldn't she just stop it right there? You know, she clearly, she's in the sport where, you know, nothing can really contain her or stop her. And maybe that's why she doesn't, you know, apologize to the world, you know, begging for forgiveness right then. But, you know, at the same time, like, she flies off when the police arrive. She doesn't really want to answer for what has happened here. Like, yeah, I feel like she could have just stopped it, or like literally at that house in the middle of nowhere. Just do it again. Just literally recreate a tiny hex now that she has like control of the border or whatever. You know, I don't know. And maybe that's her goal. Maybe that's literally what she's trying to accomplish in that space. And being so far out so she can't, you know, accidentally harm anybody else at all. But yeah, I would have loved if like it just stopped right at her front door, and, you know, so the kids could still be alive. But at the same time, honestly, the kids coming to grasp with them being the extension of like her magic and not really their own genuine beings, like that would be really, really hard to wrap your head around as a metaphysical child.
I'm gonna have to look at that scene again, because there are some interesting posters and some Easter eggs in the background. There was like a skeleton playing a guitar, and then there was like a drawing of like, it looked like a dragon. So I don't know. I think that scene might have some sort of Easter egg or hint at where, you know, they could be going with the Billy and Tommy stuff. But certainly, I think that, I mean, they're going to be part. I mean, I think what's interesting too is that Wiccan ends up becoming the Sorcerer Supreme further on in the comics, and, you know, Marvel Phase 5. You know, Doctor Strange could die at the end of Marvel Phase 4, the start of Marvel Phase 5, and then Wiccan could become the next Sorcerer Supreme. If they, I mean, because clearly Marvel is never going to stop making movies or projects on TV. Like, this is Disney's big money maker, and it's just so interesting to see where they're going to go with this, because I think that, you know, what I think it's implied that Wanda is studying the Darkhold, taking a risk to see if there's a chance to somehow get Billy and Tommy back. At least that's how I understand
that's the whole thing, dude. Like, that's the entire thing. Like that's got to be proof that Chthon and Mephisto are coming into the story. Like, she is studying the dark book of magic, like the book of the damned, right? Like, this end all be all book of bad, like
the book of sins, the book of the damned. It has many different names.
And so like seeing her do this after being warned by Agatha, which is not a reliable, you know, source by any means, because she was just trying to kill Wanda. So, but she's warned, and she's like, "Hey, you don't understand this magic." Like, again, I still think the whole point of all of this, and the whole point of showing Wanda that vision of herself, you know, in the future through the Mind Stone, when she's first given the powers, like, I think she is, you know, was a witch from the beginning, and that being, you know, whoever bestowed that image upon her is like showing her a glimpse of what she could be. And at that moment, in that dark place, when she is, literally put in a room as an experiment, told, not told, but we know that she was expected to die. Like, in that moment, she was expected to touch that stone and be vanquished like dozens before her. So in that dark spot, this being is showing an image. It relates to her probability magic in the sense that it's like, yes, I will do that. You can do that. That wish upon you, that silent spell that you're casting to become the Scarlet Witch, that's what we're going to do. That's what you can become, without knowing all of the bad stuff that she would have to go through, but to make that happen, like losing everybody that she loves, losing her mind, creating this entire town. Like, again, that is the only way that we can shape this to where Wanda doesn't have all of the blame on her. Because again, if that's true, it means that she was just the catalyst for the entrance of Chthon. Like, that's what I think this is all leading to. That's what I think Agatha's like cries about, her ignorance and why she doesn't know what's going on, is that this is the ushering of something far greater. And essentially meaning
her
that Wanda's
ancestors fought Chthon in the comics. Her mom, there was a Chthonic cult that ended up becoming a thing after he wrote his dark magic on this indestructible piece of parchment, which ended up becoming this collection of different prophecies and spells and stuff like that. But clearly the MCU is changing it around a little bit. Like, they have a prophecy of the Scarlet Witch being this harbinger. And one thing I thought was really cool, as we see her helm, we see the M on it, the kind of the naming of her being the Celestial Madonna, which is something that is, I'm going to talk about it in another video. But I think, there's some interesting points in chat. Like, some people are thinking that, Mephisto and Chthon could become this amalgamation. There was this rumor, because the imagery of the devil doesn't go over well in Asia. They could do this kind of merging of Mephisto and Nightmare. I think that's going forward. There's going to be this group of elder gods and beings that could be they're going to mash a few together. We know that they'll probably do that with Kang the Conqueror as well, who's definitely going to show up in Loki, being kind of this amalgamation of Mortis and Kang the Conqueror and these other different characters, pulling from different stories, because they can tell a limited amount of stories, right, in their phase. So for them being able to pull from all these different mythologies and kind of just mashing that, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing, I guess.
Yeah. And that's Marvel's MO. Like, they definitely do that a lot. Condense storylines and make it as commercially understandable. And you don't need to study this stuff to understand a lot of it. In the way that they'll describe the magic, whether it's as in depth as like the probability magic leading to Chthon and that leading to this and all of that. Like, it may not happen that way, but it doesn't mean that that's wrong. It just means that like the watered down version of that's happening, because that's easier to understand by the most number of people. I do hate the idea.
You got to remember that like 75% of people don't read the Marvel comics. So their audience, audience is like 3/4. I don't want to say normies, but like 3/4 of people who are casual fans. Like my mom, she likes this stuff. You know what I mean? But she doesn't read the Marvel comics. So
but I do hate the idea of like censoring our stories because of China and cultures that exist outside of where this story was developed. Like, that sucks, but at the same time, like, you must suckle at the teat of China at this point. Like, there's just way too much money. There's no company in the world that's like, I mean, you look at, there are some companies that do it, but you look at like LeBron James, everybody wants that sweet Chinese money, and that's just what you got to do now. So yeah, if that's the case, then I could see it, because Disney loves that money.
What are some other things that stood out to you in the finale hacks? There was I just felt like the emotional beats of the story, they really wrapped that up nicely. I think that they did a great job with that, and I think that was their focus too. I think that ultimately people were going to be disappointed because of how high the bar was raised with these previous 3 or 4 episodes. Like episode 6, 7, and 8 were just masterpieces. They were just like, they were so good. But yeah, what were some other things that stood out to you in the finale? Like, obviously, the Ship of Theseus scene, the last Wandavision, Wanda and Vision moment. The post-credit scenes are obviously going to have a huge impact. What are some of the other things that stood out to you?
Other moments that stood out to me. So, yeah, I mean, the Ship of Theseus, Vision, becoming the most accurate vision that we'll ever see again. Wanda studying the Darkhold. Agatha not being killed.
The hexes within the hex were cool. The ruins and the different runes within the hex, and Wanda learning from Agatha. Like, she learned very quickly, right? Like, that was cool.
Yeah. That was another point where I was just like, I don't know, man. Like, so it's just like the realistic way that people learn. Like, if you're trapped in a basement and this witch is like, hey, like, these are the runes. Look at these runes above you. This is how anti magic zones work. And then she just like memorizes that instantly. Like, this is one of those points where, humans can do this. Nobody could do this, but, maybe someone with genius IQ and just a different way of learning things could do this. But like, seeing the runes that are your prison, and then being there for like 10 seconds before you go on this mystic journey, remembering your entire life, and then to use it, moments later against Agatha in like the grandest of scales. One, it was awesome in the sense that, she did that, and like the whole thing became this rune, which was something that I talked about, right? Where, the shape of Westview and the roads in between, like, could have been interpreted as a rune itself, like in a similar sense that Doctor Strange, the sanctums, protected the Earth from Dormammu. So that was a cool idea.
The ley lines.
Yeah. But using it, putting the runes on the walls, super cool. But at the same time, I was just like, damn, how does she know that? Like, this is something that, like, for Agatha probably took years of study. But is it just as simple as making those symbols on the wall? Or there's no incantation, there's no anything else? You draw a line with a stick and you're good. Like,
the interpretation of it is that Agatha studied this over hundreds of years, and the Scarlet Witch is this celestially touched character. She's literally marked by sin, but also by the Mind Stone. She's chosen by Chthon to be this agent of chaos, and I think that's where they're going with the Multiverse of Madness stuff and the Darkhold and all that. But she's also partially touched by this cosmic power of the Mind Stone.
Yeah,
so she's touched by these two ancient powers, this reality chaos bending magic, but also this kind of this enlightening magic. This is crazy.
Yeah, so that was one point where I just had to like tailor my expectations. Like, okay, sure, it's possible, but and ultimately, I guess, like, it also speaks to exactly that. Like, Agatha spent so long doing this, and part of the reason that she was so upset and infuriated and envious of Wanda's magic is that, like, she has no clue what she's doing, but she's wielding nukes. But I guess she does know what she's doing. I don't know. She's learning. She's trying her best, man. She's just trying her best.
So thank you everyone for joining us. If you're enjoying this so far, make sure you hit that like button. Like I said, if you want to check out Hax's content, you can find everything in the link in the description of the video. We're going to continue going for another half an hour, so we're going to open it up to questions and comments and all that, and we're going to open up our discussion. I have seen some people talking, or at least mentioning in the comment section, Falcon and Winter Soldier. We'll get to the Beekeeper. I saw Connor bring that up a couple times. Connor, we'll get to your question directly after this. Get your questions, comments, and stuff in chat. We'll try to get to as many as we can within a half an hour here. But we will be covering Falcon and Winter Soldier, Loki, and all of that. So make sure you subscribe to our channels if you want to continue checking out this kind of content. It's called the Marvel Podcast. We are in our 7th episode. I have a playlist on the channel if you guys want to go check out our other episodes, and we'll have lots of Marvel content going forward. We're not just going to be doing just like episode reviews and stuff. We're going to have mythology and lore episodes and stuff like that going forward. So you guys will definitely have a lot of content from us going forward in the future. And if you want to support the channel, you can hit that join button. It's $4.99 a month to start off, and I'm doing all sorts of special polls where you get to decide what kind of content I have on the channel and stuff like that. So I'm doing a kind of a vote right now. Do you want to see a Secret Invasion video, a Loki video, or all that kind of stuff? We do all sorts of different polls and bonus content. So just for everyone that wants to know, you can check that out. So let's get with this question. Hacks from Connor. Yes. I saw him bring it up a couple times.
So I don't think the beekeeper means anything. I think they're just gone. I think it was just meant to show, like, a little bit more about how the world works and explore the magic system that we were still just tipping our toes into. And so in that sense, I don't think it means anything. It is, Franklin is the person's name. And I think there was a screenshot that showed he was turned into like the ice cream man. In like a background, like we could kind of see a similar actor or similar face of an actor that was working just a part of the world. Ultimately, yeah, I don't think it matters.
Yeah, I think there's going to be quite a few loose ends that they don't. I mean, look at what happened with Dottie. We discussed the possibility of her being Arcana Jones, stuff like that. And that's part of the beauty of, I think, with storytelling too, is there's red herrings. That's not necessarily a bad thing. But of course we want them to expand on everything, right? And I saw them bringing up Pietro and Ralph quite a bit. Do you think there's a possibility that he's Mephisto?
Hell no.
Hell no?
Hell no. Get out of here, Boston. What are you doing? No, so I don't think he's Mephisto. I think my interpretation of Ralph is, so the multiverse exists. We know that. Like, we don't need more confirmation of that. Well, I'm sorry, we did. We need a big confirmation of that. We have a small confirmation of that with Spider-Man, with the Quantumverse and Ant-Man. Like, there are, and even in Endgame, like the whole plot explored this idea of creating branch timelines. Now, what it didn't say, and what it should have said, is that there are infinite timelines. Because in Doctor Strange, we know that there are infinite dimensions and realities in which they can draw power from. So all of that combined together, that there needs to be a singular moment that combines all of those awesome ideas into what the multiverse is going to be, and that's probably going to be Doctor Strange 2. Multiverse of Madness. But I was hoping for it in this, but ultimately all of that to say, Ralph, I think he is the missing person, but he was the person in witness protection. I don't think he has a superpower. I don't think he has anything like that. I think that the Evan Peters person, that character, is representative of what Evan Peters would be in the MCU reality. So as such, he is just a regular person, because there are parallels between the two characters. We see when we first get introduced to X-Men Quicksilver, he is in his mother's basement. When we get introduced to Ralph Boner, we get introduced, or he is living in the man cave of his house or whatever, masked as if he was married to Agnes. Like, there are very, very shocking similarities there, in the sense that these could be the same character, but the what if scenario. Like, what if he didn't have the gene, or what if this reality and the cascading events of Infinity happened that all led to him just being a regular Joe Schmo instead of him being the Quicksilver of the X-Men reality. Like, so again, I take this as a little bit of confirmation that the multiverse exists, and this is just the Evan Peters of the basic ass Wandavision.
He's Quicksilver in another dimension multiverse, and he's Ralph Boner in this one.
Yeah. That's what I was trying to
say. People definitely have a boner for the Mephisto Ralph Quicksilver theory. Sorry about the pun there. I'm going to shame myself
shame
for that bad joke. Yeah, let's get to some more comments.
Actually, Connor says Ralph isn't the guy in Witness Protection. He's an actor. That's a really good point. If he was an actor, if he was in Witness Protection, he wouldn't be allowed to be an actor. Very true. Also, Jimmy sees him on TV and doesn't identify him as a witness. Does Jimmy see him on TV? When would he see?
Because we have the episode. I mean, Agatha summons him in at the end of.
Oh, you're right. Yeah. You're right. They recast. Yeah. Well, actually,
like why they?
I'm sure they would have rewatched it, but
because Darcy says, because Darcy says, why did she recast Pietro?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so I think it is only Darcy that sees him then, but assuming that they're able to rewind things, which they are, he would definitely know that that's who it is. Although I don't know.
Boston, thank you for that donation. We appreciate that, my man. I'll put that in the Marvel Podcast Fund. Thank you. Oh, I didn't mean to press it a second time. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's all good. Yeah, so I don't know. Ultimately, the exact account of how he gets revealed isn't important, but yeah, he does get revealed. I guess if it was the person in witness protection that he would have said so. But man, I just don't know why we didn't get that. Like that should have been such a easy fundamental. Like it should have literally been like Jimmy entering and then seeing like the guy or the girl and just being like, oh hey, I've been looking for you, you know, and just that little thing, that tiny little passing joke would have been everything. That would have been the best way they could have wrapped that quest up, right? Like, or the storyline up.
I like the way you say it as quest.
Yeah, like yeah.
Boston says, who sent Wanda to Westview?
Who sent Wanda to Westview? Yeah, I mean, ultimately nobody. Ultimately herself. Ultimately Vision. Again, that was another slight way that I was hoping that guilt could be put on Hayward. If the plot to get her there was manufactured by him, if that letter that she got and the deed to the house was sent by him. But ultimately, yeah, it was Vision that did that. So it's just her. She just happened to be there. And the other thing, so one more note. The house that Agatha is in has the basement of like an ancient ethereal worship, sacrifice, magic witch thing, right? Right. Like, where did that come from? You're telling me she just flew into town and the neighbor in the house next to the, where Wanda created the hex is just happens to have this mythical ghost or mythical ancient shrine thing. Like, I don't know what to call it, but yeah. So
let's call it a lair.
Yeah, the lair. Yeah, that's a good idea. And of course, like we know that Ralph is being confined to the attic of that same house, but yeah, just something feels off. Like, why was it there? Why? Did she make all that? Did she have time to do that? She's just like killing animals and hanging them on the wall, like, and letting the bones dry out to become.
Agatha had a good realtor. Lol.
Yeah.
Well played.
Her sanctum.
Yeah, we don't stand Agatha here. She killed Sparky. We don't like that very much.
Yeah, that's true. Although, man, I love Catherine Hine. Catherine. I think that's right. Her last name.
Han. Yeah, Han. I think it's Han. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, actually, let me ask you a question and also chat a question, Hacks. Do we think we get some Emmy nominations, Golden Globe nominations? Like, I think we're pretty much on the yes train, right?
I want Paul Bettany to win something so bad it hurts me. Like, I honestly, I think Elizabeth Olsen did amazing. But Paul Bettany has been in the game for so long and hasn't had like a standout experience like this. Like A Knight's Tale, so great. Legion, I actually love Legion as well. But I don't think, I may be wrong here. I'm not looking this up, but I don't think he has like a big win. He's not like a name that everybody knows right away. I would love to see him get a big win. Elizabeth Olsen, also great performance. So much more time to have great performances.
Yeah, what do we think about that, chat?
Old, but...
Catherine Hahn, Elizabeth Olsen, Paul Bettany. Do we see anyone get nominated for their performances? I think we do. I think the superhero stigma will wash away with after this one. I just think it was too good, man.
Yeah, and man, dude, I don't know. The writing was so good. The writing was phenomenal. There's a few parts where it was just like they said the obvious thing, but then they said the obvious thing and then leaned into it. Like they made a joke out of saying the obvious thing. Like the interaction between Hayward and Jimmy when he's like, I think you just need to have more vision. And it was just, I cringed. I cringed so hard. I was like, no, they did not just write that. But then the way they made it good was that they leaned into it because that's Jimmy's character. He was like, that's good, sir. That's good. All right. But, Quantico's on the way. And yeah, so ultimately, like they turned an awkward moment good in relation to his character. But overall writing definitely deserves some acknowledgement, and the acting, set design as well. I don't know exactly all the tech based awards or the awards at all, but yeah, like the set design, the storytelling through everything that they created, and the editing of all of it, man. Yeah.
Google. Oh, so we got another donation, and Ray, I have your comment. We're going to get to your comment in just a section, but thank you again, Boston, for being generous. Also, a channel member hitting that join button, so we appreciate that. Google epidemiology of Hayward. We talked a little bit about kind of the esoteric meaning of Hayward and all of that, and that's kind of been explained a couple of different times. What are your thoughts on the meaning of Hayward?
Nothing. Yeah, I mean, at this point, like, I think it's smart storytelling. I think in a good story, everything means something. Because
it actually means it, like the keeper of an enclosure, and we thought that could be related to the hex, but I think that people are going way deep with that.
Yeah, and it's cool. And again, so like in a story, like in a good story, everything should mean something. Even if there's no value to it, everything should be able to be considered for more than what it is. And so in that sense, it's good. But it does kind of lead to red herrings, and maybe that's what this was. But at the same time, like, sometimes names are just names, I think we can leave it at that. We got Ray's comment here. Here's an interesting one. Agatha is still playing the victim. She's shown in the past, Wanda's powers don't work on her, and Wanda is getting the blame with Agatha mind-controlled Ralph and Nine Dead Witches. Yeah, so do we think that Agatha is a Chthonic cultist? Because she got persecuted by her mother, which, there was this clear distinction between Wanda's mother's blue magic and her magic, and now of course we're seeing the red chaos magic, which is way more rare than other magic, right? It's just like super rare magic. Not everybody can use it. But how did Agatha, like, who did she reach out to learn this knowledge of this magic? She has the Darkhold. Like, how the hell did she get the Darkhold? Right, that's a big question. So my first thought there is that Agatha probably reaches out to the dark dimension for her powers. And the only link to that is that it's purple. And that's not always the case, because we know that, like, Wakanda's magic and the god Bast is purple magic as well. Mm-hmm. But my interpretation is, yes, she's probably getting her powers from the dark dimension. And the point of that is that she's this baby witch. As in 1693, she's this baby witch, has this link to this dark dimension, and that shows how powerful the dark dimension is over the blue magic, and shows just without how little training she had, how powerful it could be without being one of the crowned witches. So the fact that Agatha isn't a crowned witch at this point in her career, is probably pretty aggravating to her. So seeing Wanda, and then wanting to absorb her magic like she did with the blue magic, I think that makes sense. And ultimately, I think it also shows, like, that power level, whereas, like, she already has so much power, but still this red magic and this magic from Chthon is, like, still so much more powerful than anything that she could create. It's that instantaneous creation, as opposed to needing ritual and needing anything like that. Like,
I put up the picture of Evanora Harkness in the background now with her blue crown. As you can see, it's clearly different than the one we get with the Celestial Madonna and Scarlet Witch. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. I think that they're going to be expanding more on this chat, right? Like, they have to, because this is very close connection to Zedrana, who was an Atlantean, who is also Agatha's mother in her comic mythology. Yeah. We talked about it a few different times in the channel here, but yeah, so there's this clear distinction between the two, and I think that we may learn more about that in Doctor Strange too, because the crowning of witches, like, Agatha obviously has studied the prophecy of the Scarlet Witch. Like, this is something that has been foretold for many years, which means that they're setting up the Chthonic. Chthon choosing Wanda as kind of his vessel going forward. Like, there's no coincidence in that.
And I think that's what we saw, right? I think that's what we saw with the Mind Stone scene. It's just that's never explored further. Like, I think that is exactly what that is. That's the point in which he realizes, or that entity realizes, that this witch with probability magic. This is the best case scenario to get the Scarlet Witch created, and as such, get me into the universe. or get me back into some form of power, while exploiting Wanda Maximoff.
So yeah, I mean, man, you guys are on fire in chat. By the way, we really like every single time we do this and we open up to comments and questions. You guys always have really interesting insights, and that's what. There were some criticisms about like, YouTubers in theory crafters are ruining Wandavision. They set unrealistic expectations for the finale. I think that is so dumb. If you bring that kind of energy here, get out. Sorry, we're not down for that. We're all about positivity here. But I think the best part of this, and we talked about this in multiple podcast hacks, is that this has the Game of Thrones effects. Now people are going to buy Marvel comics. It gives us the opportunity, since we have this Disney Plus format, to discuss this weekly, and us as content creators, we're greedy. We want the ability to be able to talk about 4 or 5 different subjects, make all of these different videos so that we can elongate these discussions throughout the week to week, to discuss these, amazing stories that haven't been told yet in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, because we've only had this one medium essentially of telling through these big blockbuster movies. And I think that, I said it again, like this is kind of like Goku getting to his second Super Saiyan form or his third Super Saiyan form. Like, I feel like this is a level. I don't know about you guys, because I'll always love the Marvel movies, but this is actually my preferred form of absorbing Marvel content, I think, is this TV show format that they now have.
Yeah, it's so fun because like it allows us to think so much more about each topic and discuss so much more. Even if it's wrong stuff, like even if we're, the idea, the subpixel theory video, there's a genuine way that they could have written this story that showed the hex as something technology based. And, at the end of the day, like we're reaching this point where science fiction and magic and fantasy are all coming together, where like this magical hex thing could also exist in a technology form, because we know about the technology barf, right? We know that the plot of Spider-Man Far From Home, where oh my gosh, what's his name? What's the bad guy's name?
Say that again.
In Spider-Man Far From Home, what's the bad guy's name? It is on the tip of my tongue, but anyway.
Oh, it's Mysterio.
Mysterio, thank you.
Yeah,
I kept wanting to say
he's lying about Earth 616. Like we're lying about the multiverse. He's obviously not from there because he's got, he used to work for. He got fired by Star. You know what I mean? So there's a clear grudge. But yeah, Mysterio.
Yeah, thank you. My whole point was that Mysterio. Like we're getting to that point where fantasy and magic and and technology, like we're at this crossroads where yes, they could basically be the same thing. It's like. And they kind of talked about that, where like the magic of the world and this is like the source code of the universe. In that sense, like, how far away is healing Doctor Strange's hands by surgical means different than healing his hands by technology means, or I'm sorry, by magic means? Like, we're hitting that point where these things are very similar to each other. But ultimately, just to say, with the show being in TV form and not just a full-fledged movie, it allows us to explore the ideas of that, and I like it so much more.
Yeah, there's so many interesting possibilities going forward, right? Like it's just limitless now with what we're going to be able to see with how they operate this Marvel Phase 4. Let's get to some more comments, my man. People are talking about the mailman, talking about how let's highlight Connor's comment up here. Let me try to scroll up and get it. There is a theory that the mailman was person in witness protection personalities and the hex are similar. Mailman keeps saying, "Don't shoot, I'm just the messenger." What are your thoughts on that?
I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't know. I think that I think that Ralph is. You think he's the person in witness protection? I mean, we kind of went over that. I think.
I mean, honestly, like I think my opinion's changed there in the sense that a person in witness protection. I don't think I'll have to clarify, but I'm pretty positive they can't be an actor because of their face being out there. But yeah, I mean, it could be the mailman. I at this point I don't think it matters. Like,
yeah, I don't think so either.
Yeah, I think that I would have liked it to. I would have liked it to again, all they had to do was just a single passing line with Jimmy making a joke about the person that he was standing next to. It would have taken 2 seconds to close that storyline, and they didn't. Which means that it's either bad storytelling or that there is more with this person. But at the same time, like, they should have just revealed the person's face, right? Like, or maybe it's Dottie, right? Like, because Dottie is a character that was, like, cast in a very particular way that made it look like she was more than she was.
She was so concerned about the safety of her kids too.
Yeah, and so, yeah, I don't know. I would like it to be something more, but it's probably not.
I'm kind of in agreement with Hacks here. Jones, don't shoot them.
Oh my god!
Go ahead.
Said, anyone else get PTSD when, or to Oberyn in the mountain when spectral vision grabbed Wanda's head?
Yes.
Dude. Oh my god, so hardcore. Hearing the cracking, hearing just like all of that, I was just like, no way. Like, this is the most brutal thing I've ever seen in the MCU. But yeah, very much a Game of Thrones move there.
Gwen Stacy says, where were the kids after Wanda stopped the hex? Oh, doggo pets. Love me some doggos. What is your interpretation? I mean, I think that they are either in Nightmare's dream dimension, since he was teased as the Doctor Strange 2 villain, or possibly in Chthon's realm, wherever he's at.
Yeah.
Wanda is being lured, I think. Those were, I don't think that those were authentic. They could be authentic screams, actually, possibly. But I think that there's a couple of different scenarios going on there. Either way, the Darkhold is not something that is good for you if you're using it.
No, and she's just reading it like, countryside reading. Yeah, but I mean, here's the thing. Like, it clearly shows some mastery of magic outside of just explicit evil, because we do see her astral projecting, similar to how Doctor Strange was. So that proves that she is learning something that isn't inherently evil, because we know that Doctor Strange does that as well. So yeah, I mean, the book has to have more knowledge than we're being led to believe, or I guess she could have absorbed that from Agatha, though. I don't know. The idea of absorbing other people's magic is odd. Does that also transfer the knowledge that they have? If so, then why would she need to be a character at all? Or is it more likely that it's just the stripping away? Like, it's like Avatar, The Last Airbender, just full on removing the earth bending or the fire bending from Fire Lord Ozai.
Oh man, Avatar: The Last Airbender. How many fans of Avatar in the chat, by the way? Mighty Mecha says, "I want to read The Darkhold now. Must be a good book."
Yeah.
I don't think you do.
I don't know, man. It seems pretty popular.
Yeah, the whole For the Children thing, right? That's gonna be an interesting. I still think that's an interesting theme that's going to be explored.
Yeah. Honestly, that's such a great point. Like, Agatha had such a relation to the children in, like, making them progress, making them exist. Like, the first conversation at all was about reproduction. Like, I just don't know why, right? If she was just there to passively observe what Wanda was doing and try to figure it out, like, why was that a thing? Was that Wanda's subconscious wanting to create children? And I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess so. I guess that's the whole point. But
I still think there's there's more to the whole Agatha Wanda relationship, obviously, because there's loads and loads and loads of backstory for the comics. But yeah, I think that there's more of a thread to connect. There's no coincidence that Agatha has the Darkhold, right? And that Wanda created the hex, and that all of this happened. Right, like this. There's too many coincidences here for this to be all this picture perfect thing. And then Wanda retreats to Sokovia, where Wundagore Mountain could be, where Chthon is imprisoned. Like like Hydra clearly knew something about Sokovia, because Pietro and Wanda were the only ones to survive from all this experimentation from the Mind Stone. Why was Hydra there too? You know what I mean? Oh, they were there in Sokovia of all places. There's clearly something going on with Sokovia and Wundagore Mountain and Chthon and all. Like there is. Why does Agatha have the goddamn dark? Well, that's got to be explained in Doctor Strange too, man.
Yeah, right? Yeah. I think
because Wanda has it now.
Yeah, I mean, I think that might be a genuine way for the Ancient One to get back into the story as well. Because, like, man, I am counting on Agatha and the Ancient One having some relation at all. Like some passing, they were in the same state. They ate lunch together at one point. Something happened. There is no way that both of these ancient beings that like look like they do have existed for so long. And yeah, like, come on. And they use the same magic. Come on. I mean, goodness.
And by the way, I think Falcon and Winter Soldier could tease some of this, right? Like Baron Zemo is at the Sokovian Memorial in the trailer. We're going to do a Falcon and Winter Soldier preview next Sunday, by the way, everyone. We're going to talk about that because Falcon and Winter Soldier comes out in 2 weeks. So
yeah.
And there could be some tie-in. I think there should be some genuine tie-ins from Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Yeah, maybe. Definitely with Hydra, Baron getting back in, or I'm sorry, Baron Zemo from Hydra getting back into the story. But yeah, it'll be interesting if Agatha and the Ancient One don't have any kind of relation. And that could also be because in Doctor Strange, it's a big reveal that the Ancient One is using dark magic. And that's never, ever revealed how she got it. And so I think that's massive. And so I think that might be how that gets explained. Doctor Strange 2 could have a flashback of like the Ancient One's sins and maybe like working, her mistake of working with Agatha at some point to learn those spells, and it backfiring on her for some reason. So maybe that's how Agatha gets the book, and also how the Ancient One gets dark magic. I think that would be a really good way to get both of those stories in line.
Also, the Ancient One's book collection, we see there's hexagons, hexagon patterns where the books sit within kind of this hexagon bookshelf. And there's one book missing. And I mean, the book of we see them focus on the book of Cagliostro in Doctor Strange 1. But just like, the idea that Agatha could have been part of their, she could have learned, from there. She could have infiltrated there. I suspect that she could be in league with Baron Mordo. Or they at least know each other. Because they have very similar mindsets as far as like persecuting the weak. Like stealing magic from people that they think don't deserve it. That kind of mindset.
It'll be interesting to see if Baron got his. I'm sorry, not Baron. If Mordo got his magic of removing people's powers from Agatha, who can absorb people's powers. Ultimately, we don't see the same thing with Pangborn, who is the person that was using his powers to just move normally. Mm-hmm. Which, man, what a dick thing to do, dude. What a shitty thing to do. You're just like, I hate all sorcerers now. There's too many of you people running around. I'm gonna start with the guy who just wants to walk normally. That's who I'm going after first. Like, damn, dude, that's pretty bad. But yeah.
There's a couple more comments. I kind of want to make this the final discussion point of our conversation here. There is Mephisto's in chat. Well played, Mephisto.
I have Wanda Smokin.
We got Wanda Maximoff and Mephisto in chat. This is absolutely hilarious. So okay. Gwen says, what did Wanda mean when she said thanks for choosing me to be your mother? And also, I just want to highlight that Connor also talks about this point. Agatha says, you're going to need me. She says, you have no idea what you've unleashed, and we think that that's definitely in reference to Chthon. But plus, Wanda says, thank you for choosing me to be your mom. Hints at the House of M storyline and all of that. So, yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
What are your thoughts on that? I don't know my thoughts yet.
I think that there's still I mean, they haven't killed these storylines. There's these other references in chat to all of the kind of this Ralph Boner character saying Westview is as charming as hell. Unleash hell, demon spawn. Agatha is saying the devil is in the details, and then we say Monica saying to Hayward, you look like hell. All of these references, it could just be them being cheeky with all of the commentary and kind of trying to trigger us, the recrafters, into creating content about it, which is brilliant. by the way, so it creates a discussion on rich mythology and lore within the Marvel comics and all of that. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure, man. I mean, we're obviously gonna see some triggering of Wanda creating the multiverse of madness in Doctor Strange 2. I think that I mean, at the end of the second post-credit scene, Wanda, after she hears the cries of Billy and Tommy, which could be bait, she darts off somewhere. Like, where the hell does she go? I think she went to whatever, the either Nightmares Dimension Dream Realm or the Chthonic Realm of Chaos. One of those two places.
Wait, who goes where? Sorry.
Wanda darts off, right? She goes right at the end of WandaVision. She clearly goes to find Billy and Tommy after those cries.
Oh no! I mean, the cries come at the end when she's reaching out to.
Yeah, but directly after that, she darts off to go find them.
Does she?
Yes, if you watch, I watched the scene in slow-mo like 10 times.
Oh shit! I thought,
she leaves her.
Yeah, I've only seen it once. Yeah.
Yeah, she leaves her cabin and she goes somewhere.
Huh?
There's like a flash of light.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on? Thank you for choosing me to be your mom.
Yeah, I mean.
Because like when I heard that, like it's an interesting way of saying like, you know, thanks for picking me. Like I tell my mom, I'm like, you are my favorite mom, like hands down favorite person who's ever birthed me. You know, and it's like this kind of joke, but
like you're my favorite dog, but you're my only dog. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. It's kind of odd.
So it feels like an interesting line where like, you know, thank you for choosing me to be your mom. I don't know. When I heard it, I legitimately am still unable to wrap my head around that line, and that's ultimately why I wanted your input on it.
Well, let's throw this to chat because they're the one that's bringing it up like crazy.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, Mephisto says we will use Wanda to destroy the multiverse. I genuinely believe that's true. Like I 100% think that is possible. To
unleash chaos, essentially.
Yep. I think Mephisto and Chthon were behind this from day one. Tricked her to become the Scarlet Witch.
Mephisto's boss could be Chthon in MCU. We can see that.
Yeah. Or they could be the same person.
They could just do an amalgamation.
Yeah. And, you know, the whole thing, get Wanda to become the Scarlet Witch unbeknownst to her, without knowing the cost. And then ultimately now she's studying the Darkhold, which is this massive book of you know,
and also conveniently tied to Chthon. Who ends up choosing Wanda as his vessel in the comics. So yeah, well, it's very convenient. It's very convenient, dude.
Going after the multiverse would be pretty powerful. It would also tie into Loki as well, because we know that he's going to be working with the
Time Variance Authority.
Yeah. TVA, and so I think all of that is going to be amazing. And you know, they kind of explored this too, because like we see Loki in Endgame when Iron Man and Captain America lose the Tesseract, you know, he grabs it and then just like whoop, and then backs into like he goes across time and space, which is really interesting. And I think maybe kind of the point of Loki and what they're deciding to do with Loki is exploring that timeline where you know, he becomes, or he escapes and exists as his own person with access to that incredible power. You know, so that ultimately might be the Loki that gets caught by the TVA and, you know, has to make things right, or has to go up against the dark forces that are now threatening the entire multiverse, which I think would be amazing.
This final point, I think we'll talk about too. One thing that's super interesting. The original release order for Phase 4 had Doctor Strange released in May, shortly after WandaVision.
I know.
And then Falcon and Winter Soldier would have had Black Widow tie in with it, because Yelena, who's going to be appearing in Black Widow, is also supposedly rumored to be in Falcon and Winter Soldier. So all of this timeline stuff they had set up was going to be, you know, linking this Disney Plus format with the movies, which we clearly see them doing, because we've just speculated and talked about it and theorized about it, and they're trying to tie all this mythology and lore moving forward in Phase 4. But yeah, that kind of screwed things up a little bit too, because like now we're not getting Multiverse of Madness until next year, so now we have to wait a little bit for the story. And I think it, like, you know, people are like, the WandaVision, it's hot off the press. You know, everybody's talking about it on social media. I think the impact obviously would have been Wanda, Multiverse of Madness is only a month away. We could have hyped this, we could have talked about it for the next 4 weeks, talked about different subject, you know what I mean? But now that's kind of not the case. We have to slow the brakes on it a little bit.
Yeah.
So thanks everyone for joining us. This has been super fun. We had another great discussion. Like we said, a little bit sad that WandaVision is end, but I mean, God, what a great season of television. This is the first Marvel Disney Plus show that we got, and it's going to be really hard to top, Hacks. Like, my God, that was just so good.
Yeah, honestly, it's so good. And again, there's a lot of criticisms of the finale that I think are justified. And I hate this idea of, people are like, oh, you're upset with the finale because your theories didn't come true. Nobody cares that their theories didn't come true. Like, there are genuine concerns about the finale and strings that weren't tied up and stories that, or ways that they could have shaped it that just would have felt better. Genuine criticism of the finale. And so I hate the mindset that we can just shit all over those ideas because, or chalking it up to people being upset that theories were wrong. I love this series, and again, I do have criticisms of the finale, but yeah, I wouldn't trade it for the world. I mean, it was honestly so amazing. It definitely explored this amazing emotional side. Even able to tackle this idea of identity. I would have liked if they explored more of this your truth thing that they were building up to. It really felt like they had a lot to understand with what your truth is, and the dialogue between Monica and Wanda maybe could have done a little more of that at the very end there. But honestly, yeah, I loved it, and I'm glad that we got it.
They discussed a lot of really interesting themes, including the one of family, which was, one of the very, very main themes. And I think that going forward, we're excited because we only have to wait 2 weeks to see Falcon and Winter Soldier. I think people are a little bit down on the hype for that one because they think, well, it's not going to be nuanced. There isn't the storytelling won't be as good as WandaVision, but we don't know that yet. Because I think that we're actually underestimating how good the backstory and the storytelling will be of Sam and Bucky. I think that we, of course, are going to explore the complicated legacy of Captain America, but we also get to see the viewpoint of Baron Zemo, who is an incredible character. And we're going to be seeing some super interesting things in Falcon and Winter Soldier. So make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell. But go subscribe to Hack's Dogmas channel. You can find the link in the description of the video for that. But also this channel, because we're going to be going live on Sundays at 1 p.m. The Marvel podcast that you're seeing here right now. We're going to be talking about Falcon and Winter Soldier for the next 7 weeks, it seems like, man. Because we're getting 6 episodes of that. That's going to be super exciting. We got a little bit of a break after that for 7 weeks until Loki comes out. But there's going to be a lot of things to discuss here, chat. Of course, if you want to hear us discuss anything here on the Marvel podcast, let us know in the description of the video or on social media. You can find all that in the description of the video. And we just want to thank you for all the support. It's been super fun doing this so far. Our chat has been growing and growing each week with all sorts of new awesome people I see here. And it's just been super fun to have discussions with you guys. You guys have great commentary, thoughts, analysis, all of that, and interpretations of what's going on in Marvel Phase 4. And yeah, we hope that you continue to come watch us. We really enjoyed this.
Yep. Same.
So with that said, everyone, oh, what beautiful music for the finale. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you want to support the channel, you can hit that join button or join on Patreon. We shall see you next week, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Falcon and Winter Soldier preview, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thanks again.